Hi everyone. Today I'll be rereading White Straight Guys with Beards and/or Diplomas, or Western Marxism and Its Flaws, Transphobia and Other Bigotries in the Anti-Zionist Movement, on account that there's been some updates since I wrote it initially back in May. Specifically, Chris Kunzler decided to have the Tabernacle on and have a discussion about Graham Plattner, which, while all perfectly fine and good, makes the Tabernacle something of a hypocrite, given their defense of Bad Empanada, a bad actor who is also, like Graham Plattner, an anti-Zionist. So, I decided to revisit this piece, mentioning that, but also making a variety of other changes as well. Part of the reason that I'm doing all of this, too, is because, on one hand, this video was initially produced when I was getting ready to move, so I didn't really have a lot of time to write it. I just sat down, wrote down my thoughts, and I linked to a lot of other stuff, including the original video, Kav Takes the Soup, because all of the receipts are in that video and any context that you could possibly want or need. But people told me, oh, I didn't watch the video, but also what you wrote is too short. And then if I said, well, here's this other thing that's much longer that has everything, then they said, nope, that's too long. So this is me trying to find the Goldilocks sphere and giving people something that's not too long, that's not too short, but rather it's just right. And it gives a variety of examples that hopefully should be illuminating in regards to the Tabernacle specifically, and why, in my opinion, he's a token douchebag. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the work that I do. You can leave a comment. Feedback usually goes into my piece one way or the other. And last but not least, there are links if you wish to support me financially in the description of this video. Fascism makes you dumb. So here's some food for thought while combating fascism in disguise. Are beards evil? Joking aside, this question specifically concerns Western Marxism and its flaws, namely transphobia and the anti-Zionist movement, among white straight guys with beards and/or degrees playing the hero and the victim in bad faith. I'll give examples from my own work, a trans woman with a degree who is also anti-Zionist, but also other people's work too, trans or otherwise. We'll consider examples from academic and non-academic sources, e.g. the Tabernacle defending Bad Empanada on YouTube, and Norm Finkelstein's own transphobia, treating bigotry and slurs like activism, trading one genocide for another. However, feel free to add your own. I know hair smells bad when lit on fire, but time to barbecue some sacred cows. Update 7/8/2026. Chris Kunzler invited the Tabernacle on stream, discussing the unfolding situation with Graham Plattner and the rape accusations against him. To know my thoughts, read the Graham Plattner situation or Flaccid Kav Strikes Again after the original article. See also Raising Awareness, which covers the same subject matter, but far more seriously and at length. Flaccid Kav being my new nickname for the Tabernacle after his taking the soup. Refer to that video for context and receipts beyond what I show here, but also my critiques of other moderates besides Kav and his defenders, i.e. tied to state vampirism as I call it, e.g. white moderates and black moderates don't challenge fascism, alongside Dead on Arrival, or Rowling's autopsy and those who shill her. Though flaccid, Kav is just the tip of a much longer spear, or goatee, below. Disclaimer regarding essay contents. All opinions are my own, as part of my research conducted alongside my book series Gothic Communism. The material within is written, speaks about public figures, and popular media for purposes of sex education, satire, transformation, and critique, hence falls under fair use regarding copyright and free speech regarding defamation/obscenity laws. Content warning: racism, transphobia, whorephobia, rape, fascism, genocide, and beard abuse. Rape meaning, from my definition, to disempower someone or somewhere, a person, culture, or place in order to harm them, generally through fetishizing and alienizing acts or circumstances, socio-material conditions that target the mind, body, and or spirit. Rape can be of the mind, spirit, body, and or culture, the land or things tied to it during genocide, etc. It can be individual and or on a mass scale. Source: psychosexual martyrdom. Table of contents. Note: I've expanded straight guys with beards since first publishing, table of contents included, and while I've made various changes throughout, the clear and obvious addendums are in bold and color-coded. Original article, update 7/8/2026, the Graham Plattner situation, or Flaccid Kav strikes again. More beards, good versus bad, the quartering and Amazons. Original article. Source: screen cap, Lost Futures, AI is watching. To beard or not to beard is a question for the philosophers. For Praxis and for us, the question of today's discussion, developing communism, which good praxis is, concerns Western Marxism and its flaws, chiefly transphobia and other bigotries in the anti-Zionist movement, echoing classic exclusionary tactics and socialism since Marx, at least. Are reactionary and or moderate straight white guys with a beard and or degree always right? Put differently, can such people sell out behind different status symbols per the status quo? Re, white skin, straightness, degree, and or beard, e.g. Asmongold meeting some of those criteria above. Our focus here is white straight guys with beards, insofar as Western Marxism is predominantly white straight guys with beards, who tend to means test, exclude other groups in bad faith, e.g. non-white people, women, unpaid labor as a whole, indigenous people, etc., i.e. by evoking Marx as someone to imitate and or apologize for in the bargain. See George Rockhill's Who Paid the Pipers of Western Marxism. Also, this blog post originally appears on Reddit, where some MLs punch down to stymie discourse, e.g. clear result 3412 and r/socialist101 above. You can pause this and read it if you want. My piece is meant somewhat as a joke, but not entirely. The satire has bite, ruffling some feathers or beards on purpose. I shall tug as much as I like, if it means exposing bad actors, i.e. per the scratching method, as I call it, aka the magic mirror argument, reversing objection to see how workers respond, in short, how they react to different things that get them to drop the mask on a shared stage by good actors and bad. Source: interview with the vampire. Transphobia has historical precedents within Marxism, ergo socialism as a whole addressing Zionism. Marx was a white straight guy with a beard. Marx was homophobic and born Jewish, but rejecting that side of things. Norm Finkelstein is a white, straight Jewish guy with a degree, minus the beard, above. Norm is transphobic. Marx died before Zionism and worldwide transphobia could manifest under capital, often at odds as demonstrated in Oscar Wilde's world-first homosexual trial in 1895 and blatant anti-Semitism in Dorian Gray from 5 years earlier. Norm is queerphobic well after, meaning in ways that sacrifice identity politics on the altar of class reductionism. He is class reductionist, using his status as PhD to punch down at trans people during their own genocide, i.e. furthering one genocide on the objection process, or claiming to fight another genocide more deserving. Sucks for trans Palestinians, I guess, but also trans anti-Zionists as a whole. Simply put, you don't stop one genocide by waging another, slurs or otherwise, to play the hero and the victim, what my friend and mentor Sandy Norton calls the imperialism of theory. Marx being homophobic, as I write, and making Marx gay, but also others before me, e.g. Peter Drucker's Gays in the Left, from 1997. Oscar Wilde being anti-Semitic despite having Jewish friends himself. Marx had gay friends by comparison, but was still homophobic. So can anyone punch down while playing that card? Bigotry isn't some neat, clean, black and white thing. It's messy and full of contradictions, like capital, and those who embody it. Interrogating bigotry happens where one is, the Victorian period for Marx and Waard, and while dealing with good and bad actors on a spectrum of different contradicting forces between shared struggles, e.g. exploitation or liberation, a question asked by and for different parties and their problems, e.g. transphobia and Zionism versus their polar opposites. Intersectional problems require intersectional solutions. Those who assimilate, lie, or otherwise divide and conquer, poor stewards of the world at large. Betrayal is betrayal, rape is rape, and abuse of power, to whatever degree they transpire. This extends to people outside of academia proper. Take YouTube. Bad Empanada has both a beard and BA in history, and, not Jewish or queer, is subsequently transphobic, anti-Semitic, racist, and exclusionary of indigenous peoples, etc. From the Anti-Zionist Movement, he demonstrably monopolizes, as an Aussie expat living in Argentina, no less. However, the example I'll give isn't so much Bad Empanada, as I've said enough about him as is, but someone else downplaying his bigotry in ways that highlight the flaws of Western Marxism, i.e., vis-a-vis Zionism, is something to enact in bad faith, so-called anti-Zionism with a literal beard, and not the gay kind. Source video thumbnail, Kav takes the soup. I'm talking about the Tabernacle, which raising awareness also discusses, but far less than Bad Empanada, above. Kav is a white Irish guy with a master's living in London who, after ignoring Bad Empanada for years, is suddenly defending him versus FD Signifier. The Tabernacle's FD Signifier has a problem with my anti-Israel videos. But yes, Bad Empanada has said some bad stuff. Bad Empanada has said some bad stuff to black people online. Bad Empanada, in my opinion, should really, really think about how he wants to present himself going forward, because I think a lot of people obviously respect him. They like his content. He makes good videos, and even with FD Signifier, Noah Sampson said that to him on his stream. But the way he presents it turns so many people off. And like I said, I like to troll a little on Twitter myself. I like making a few jokes here and there at the expense of the online left and US leftists and all that shit. But I think there is a line you can easily cross where it's just detrimental to your overall message because you're not just getting the reach that you could potentially have. Timestamp 3:31. Holy token lip service, Batman. Kav is literally advocating on Bad Empanada's behalf, essentially playing devil's advocate, sounding a bit like Burke from Aliens. It was a bad call, Ripley. He's not critiquing him. He's giving him advice to improve his image and saying, who hasn't been a troll online, to further apologize for his racism. But when I, a good faith trans woman who defended Kav from someone abusing my research on Bad Empanada, RE Essay 9.25, apologizing for misapplied research, asking for the Tabernacle's help with Bad Empanada, 2025, gave Kav valid criticism, he angrily broke months of silence to punch down, play the victim in bad faith. Flaccid Kav. There are timestamps, so please at least watch the relevant parts of the videos before commenting, especially if you are one of Bad Empanada's fans or haters. The section is called Bad Empanada, so watch this first. FD Signifier is fine. He makes good content, and it's fine for you to watch me and him at the same time. Please don't be parasocial and say we have to have a conversation and make amends because you want us to. I don't wish to discuss this much any more than I have to after this video, and I certainly don't want anything to do with him. I care about this stuff deeply, so for someone I have collabed with who's mutual on every platform, to say stuff like this just annoys me a lot. I take this stuff very serious, and the lack of seriousness in the critique of me, specifically, is what got me so annoyed. Me was waiting for you to respond to this, and your response is, Bad Empanada has said some bad stuff. Eat your heart out, Norm Finkelstein, a famous critic of Israel who's also a transphobe. In BE's case, he's called plural, furry, disabled, trans, indigenous, and sex workers useless eaters, my dude, and your criticism of his fascist language is pretty flaccid, i.e., you're as bad as FD is, No, you're worse because I know you've seen my dossier on him. Edit. This is my response to that, and language policing on the left. That's rich. So let the incel fash and red paint encourage punching down against anti-Zionist queer folk, BIPOC, and other minorities? As if, dude. Do better. Flaccid Kav. You helped make a video about me, which was outright defamation and slander. For people reading, this is the trash discourse video. You are literally credited as one of the authors. You have no right at all to lecture me about anything. Me. The video was never supposed to be about you. Did you watch my response to trash? The dossier was about Bad Empanada, and then misapplied it to you. RE. Essay 9.25. Quit taking the soup, dude. Bad Empanada is a fascist, and my research was about him, and only about him. Trash took my material and misapplied it to you, which I've publicly explained multiple times, e.g. in my own video, but also with publicly to President Sunday on stream. I literally asked Trash after said stream to apologize to you for misusing my research to slander you. I had nothing to do with them doing that to you. They released the video without telling me they'd use it to slander you. I have receipts if you don't believe me. Source YouTube comments, FD signifier has a problem with my anti-Israel videos. Flaccid indeed. Kav ignored my receipts and research, not only misrepresenting how citations work, but continuing to protect Bad Empanada by keeping silent playing dumb, which lip service largely is. It's possible to be right and wrong at the same time. Kav's hypocrisy is selective, outing Plattner as an ex-mercenary while downplaying and reducing Bad Empanada's own abuses to some bad stuff online. Comments don't stay online, do they? The double standard is plain, one that makes exceptions for the trans people, BIPOC, poor folk, and furries, etc. Bad Empanada calls useless eaters. From the research dossier, Kav continues to ignore. Above. Source the first image, raising awareness. In short, Kav throws us under the bus, then blames us for speaking out concerning our own genocide, thus rape, all to defend a piece of work like Bad Empanada. It's gross, but sadly all too common from those ignoring transphobia and the anti-Zionist movement, as white straight guys with beards so often do. Outing Plattner as an ex-mercenary, which, as I tell Chris Kunzler above, he will get to in Flaccid Kav Strikes Again. Is perfectly valid, while his bigotry from defending Bad Empanada is not. I agree with Kav on Graham Plattner, and recall him saying from the outset that Graham is bad news because of his Blackwater service and Nazi tattoo. All fine. However, Kav's defense of Bad Empanada is another story. A lot of people apologize for him, but especially white straight MLs and leftists on YouTube. Ari the Cavernacle, who really should know better, as an Irishman whose family was in the IRA, but sadly defends Bad Empanada for his transphobia. Do it. You don't keep quiet for someone, then defend them like Kav does, unless you're a fan to some extent. Omerta isn't a neutral act. Kav kept quiet for 8 months, only to open his mouth and suddenly lie to discredit my work on Bad Empanada. Again, we'll cover this more in Flaccid Kav Strikes Again. If that's not a defense, I don't know what is. Kav's a moderate through and through, ironically proving Trash right post hoc, despite her throwing me under the bus. But such is life. Then again, they're the one who deleted their entire channel from the blowback, so I guess I came out on top. He's Rennick from Sinners, but wearing more masks, which beards often are, status symbols. No matter how many he puts on, defense of fascism equals fascism. Fascism historically corrupts socialist action by hijacking emancipatory language, beard or not, in bad faith. With Kav, a proven liar, defending open bigotry while using his activist academic credentials to shield him and others from criticism. Ari, Kav takes the soup. When someone fucks with you, fuck back. Poke and prod to expose what they're defending by keeping mum, punching down. The apathy of those who think they're untouchable, too clever for others not to call them out. Meanwhile, FD signifier, while hardly above criticism either, Ari, sharing the blame, is still a black man calling out Bad Empanada's laundry list of bigoted behaviors, i.e. doing so mid-genocides, trans and Palestinian, but also black people in America, e.g. Bad Empanada calling a black ML Zog slave above. Source, tweet, Bree Esquire, 5/27/2026. And all while Kav discredits my work, making false statements about me as a fellow anti-Zionist. If you scratch a moderate, a fascist bleeds, and Kav, a token Irishman, bleeds the soup. Same difference. Regarding Zogslave, as my best friend Ginger points out, the more obscure a slur is, the more fascist the circles you have to occupy to even know it exists. Where did you learn the word Zog, dude? Which comes from the Turner Diaries, aka the neo-Nazi Bible. Anyone saying a slur is just a joke is apologizing for it, ergo the harm it causes, rape or otherwise, mid-genocide. Kav is apologizing for Bad Empanada's crypto-fascism, undermining anti-Zionism by being racist, transphobic, etc. It's possible to be bigoted in multiple ways at the same time, yet convince yourself you can't punch down because you're punching up. Poppycock. In short, Kav excludes me similar to how Bad Empanada did, but also as Norm Finkelstein would do, or Marx. I wasn't the author, I was cited, and gave Trash permission to use my document in a video about Bad Empanada, not you. I didn't help make the video. Also, opinion isn't slander under American law, dickhead. Third, the video Trash made gave their opinion about you, not mine. Though in my opinion, you're a token asshole. The white straight savior with a beard and or degree, who apparently trumps my own credentials and right to exist, defend myself and my friends from bad actors. Doing so is predatory, and Western Marxism and Marxist-Leninism are not exempt from such behaviors, especially when invoking state power as something to defend from so-called degenerates, or theater kids, which Kav prefers, when surreptitiously discounting queer critics saying fag in politically correct ways, i.e. various strongmen, e.g. Stalin, Marx, anyone acting like them to various degrees, declaring people like me as corrupting the movement, predominantly one that defends different in-group members, said members historically monopolizing oppression for themselves. Saying you're smart doesn't automatically make you smart, any more than saying you're oppressed, under attack, or anything else does. Context matters. The point being, and one addressing the central question here, is that anti-Zionism isn't beyond reproach, nor does it eclipse other genocides taking place. I am and have been for years a queer author, academic, and activist who can easily grow a beard above, source recognizing and performing empathy, but choose not to. But the moment I critique the white straight guy with a beard, another white straight guy with a beard comes to Bad Empanada's defense, i.e. Kav lying about me and ignoring piles of evidence, i.e. despite my going to bat for him multiple times, both on my own channel and on someone else's, and despite my being a rape survivor, granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, and fervent anti-capitalist, anti-fascist, and anti-Zionist eco-socialist, stressing intersectional consciousness, solidarity, to avoid class, culture, and race reductionism. Kav doesn't care, defending Bad Empanada and the status quo of Western Marxism they both belong to. The problem isn't strictly white straight guys with beards, but bad actors bearing those qualities out who refuse to face facts and criticism, or a Kav taking the soup to myopically defend Bad Empanada from valid criticism, mine or FD's. I hate beards because they itch, first and foremost, and only seem to exist in cishet culture for straight men to compete and celebrate like peacocks, but also not having one makes me feel more femme, and without which has gotten me laid a lot, though plenty of beard havers lay pipe too. To conclude, while FD is again far from perfect, and I repeatedly say so while celebrating his dunking on Bad Empanada, he'll admit wrongdoing once confronted, i.e. with evidence like Bad Empanada calling a black ML Zogslave, which Flaccid Kav unironically defends by citing the usual free speech bullshit above. By comparison, the usual benefactors of Western Marxism, online and or at university, only double down when confronted, i.e. white straight guys with or without beards, clutching pearls and doing so while using their credentials like shields from criticism, adorning them with the bodies of dead Palestinians for further protection in this respect. This goes for Norm Finkelstein or for Bad Empanada and the Cavernacle, none of whom take accountability about furthering transphobia and other bigotries during the Palestinian and trans genocide side by side. That includes trans Palestinians below. Source: Save Jordanian Palestinian trans woman's life. Instead, they only use and or stubbornly defend the use of slurs, obvious or not, from ivory towers, meaning in moderate to reactionary ways that further genocide for some, and generally ones they don't directly experience themselves, being white straight men. Toothless and flaccid, but also bad faith, they lie and downplay things to posture as saviors exempt from criticism, i.e. playing the hero and the victim, while preying on others behind their diplomas, beards, or anything else. Rape apologia equals genocide apologia. They're evil Santa. I tug on Kav's beard to see his bigotry play out, specifically his sexism, transphobia, and racism. I counter that trans people are people and should be heard alongside other minorities and their modularities, i.e. when holding bad actors, Santas or otherwise, accountable. To it, bad actors don't monopolize anti-Zionism, which, when gatekept like it is here, only weakens the movement to serve Zionism, thus casts Marxism and socialism in a bad light. Update 7/8/2026. The Graham Plattner situation, or Flaccid Kav strikes again. Speaking of evil beards and the cloaks they work like, news broke yesterday how Graham Plattner, the Democratic candidate for Maine's Senate position, was accused of rape on a political exclusive above, on top of the Nazi tattoo, and serving in Blackwater while killing brown people overseas, which should, in my opinion, bar him from office for life. Source: Jessica Piper and Adam Wren's exclusive. Woman who dated Graham Plattner says he sexually assaulted her. This update gives my thoughts on the scandal as it unfolds, both as I gave them myself and regarding Chris Kunzler talking with Flaccid Kav, who hypocritically lied to defend and deflect criticism from another anti-Zionist bad actor with a beard besides Plattner. Kav going on stream to denounce bad actors is pretty rich, given he's one himself for defending Bad Empanada, or relying on his behalf, denying evidence in the process. It's less aggressive cover-up, the sort typically enacted through raw intimidation and dirty tactics. That's Bad Empanada style, while still playing the victim like a little bitch, and more looking the other way to smugly also play the victim where convenient. Selling out is selling out. You sure you don't have a colonizer voice, Kav? Those something trash invented while attacking you on their own. I have to wonder if they weren't onto something. It's not like the Irish can't sell out, otherwise assimilate, killing home rule with kindness, or doing way too much coke in Conor McGregor's case. If the American side eventually did with plastic patties, then why oh why not a full of himself, masters-toting Londoner like you, licking the boot, if only less of it, and Bad Empanada's hairy ass crack. To it, you can nobly raise money for the Palestinians, but still be a racist, transphobic douchebag. You're just a moderate, hypocritical one. Enough jabs. We'll get to Chris and Kav in a second. First, my thoughts on the scandal. I gave my thoughts when it happened. I'm an anti-capitalist, trans woman, one whose PhD emphasizes rape prevention while dealing with bad actors. For me, Plattner's rape allegation is the least surprising thing in the world. Capital rapes by design, a state lying to maintain this predation. Plattner was merely the latest. I would comment further in a short YouTube video, the least surprising thing on earth, Graham Plattner's progressive swan song, which I summarize, too long, didn't read, guy with Nazi tattoo and employment history with Blackwater is, to no one's surprise, an alleged rapist. Also, Nazis are bad, and don't vote them into office. However, others would chime in too, e.g. Sean, who wrote snarkily, and with much justice, sorry for not being clairvoyant, about the Nazi tattoo Blackwater Merc guy. There's simply no way to know about the Nazi tattoo Blackwater Merc guy. Formerly a death's head, which Plattner covered up with fascist dog whistles, crypto-fascism, a wolf in the Celtic knot. He's literally a Nazi werewolf. Source Gate Sean Vid 7/7/2026. Lots of people taking the piss. E.g., black in the cities, I'm so shocked. Lots of people calling it way ahead of time. E.g., non-competes Graham Plattner proves that individualism and personality-driven politics are holding us back. Lots of people playing dumb. E.g., Emma Vigeland of the majority reports Graham Plattner must drop out. But some, like the Cavernacle, are being weird hypocrites. As I comment on Chris's video, talking Plattner with the Cavernacle, Chris, trans author, activist, and academic here. While I appreciate your talk with discussing Grant Plattner and his abuses, there's something you should know about the Cavernacle. He's defended Bad Empanada's bigotry repeatedly, despite being shown many receipts. These include where Bad Empanada calls me, a rape survivor, anti-Zionist, and granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, a useless eater who, along with my friends, many being BIPOC, plural, furries, and or sex workers, belongs in the mines. However, the Cavernacle has only doubled down, lying to defend Bad Empanada while apologizing for his many bigotries and dog whistles, veiled slurs. I've emailed you the details. I think you should address them, given you spoke publicly with Kav. Given his own statements on Plattner, Kav's willingness to turn a blind eye when it suits him makes him pretty hypocritical, and at least deserving of some criticism himself. Unsurprisingly, this led to a variety of sus comments from defenders of Flaccid Kav and Bad Empanada, almost like they're friends in this strange kayfabe. These include this, and this, and this dark little gem. I would respond to each if only to document things playing out. Big turf energies with this one, another white woman saying don't dishonor Plattner's victims, despite my being a rape victim, and empathizing with the Palestinians. These aren't mutually exclusive, any more with themselves than with critiquing white straight guys for being hypocrites. Source Skeet C. A lot of defenders of a white straight guy called out for his hypocrisy. There's, what does this have to do with anything? Plural person. Your kind have never done anything for us. Non-white global southerner. And this doesn't apply to you. Rape apologist. People are so atomized it hurts. Skeet B. Or as a friend says, so repulsive when marginalization is darvoed into privilege. Skeet A. Whataboutisms and other deflection tactics are the tools classically of moderates and their little friends, fascists, playing dumb to not only apologize for rape, which genocide is, but encourage it behind their mask-like beards. Time for a shave. We queer anti-Zionists must expose them as barbers, the thieving faces smiling fox-like underneath. The hypocrite, said she to herself as she crossed to the church, which formed one side of the quadrangle, but I will unmask him. And yet, troubling news of Chris Kunzler hosting the imposter out in the open? Curses! Flaccid Kav strikes again. Can his evil beard not be stopped? Hopefully Chris responds with more grace, should he respond at all. British boy wonder, turn away from false preachers before it's too late, who often mix lies with truth to fleece others and harm them. More beards, good versus bad, the quartering and Amazons. For an accidental sequel, the focus is on misogyny and Amazons instead of Zionism. Refer to video essay number 3, the quartering and Amazons above. Choice the beard, choice the attitude, and butts. So yeah, just a follow-up on the Cavernacle, basically trying to sweep different things under the rug, which is especially fucked up given the transphobia that's running wild in England, the place where he lives. He's apologizing for Bad Empanada's transphobia and other bigotries, including racism and plural phobia, furry phobia, and anti-indigenous sentiments, etc., while living in a country where transphobia and other bigotries are running wild. Some ally. It's really fucked up. And how hard is it just to say, oh yeah, maybe don't call minorities useless eaters, maybe using slurs isn't activism, but it's easier for him to say, actually, Bad Empanada, this is what you can do to improve your image, as opposed to say things as simple as trans people are people, sex work is work, alongside Free Palestine. But I guess that's too much to ask a token Irish moderate. In any event, thank you for watching. I hope you found this informative. If you like my stuff, you can support it, but also there's a wide variety of people I support who need help just as much, if not more, than I do. I'm writing from relative privilege, but so many that work with me to fight for the rights of trans people alongside the Palestinians don't have the same privileges I do. So links to all of that will be in the description. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.